The dawn came reluctantly to the Kingswood, sifting silver through branches that still trembled with the memory of night. Robert Baratheon lay on a litter of pine boughs and blood-stiff blankets, half propped against the thick trunk of an oak. His breath steamed in the early chill, short and ragged, yet life clung to him with the same stubbornness that had once driven him up the stone drum at Storm's End, laughing in the teeth of Griffin's storms. Maester Pycelle knelt close, hands hovering over the battered chest that rose and fell beneath a torn boarhide jerkin. The white raven brooch at his throat glimmered, but his voice was muted. The dry rattle of parchment pages turned too quickly. "Your Grace, the fever breaks. Gods be thanked, the poison has not found your heart." Robert snorted, a sound made thin by pain. "7 hells, Pycelle. The poison was wine and my own folly. I drank too deep, swung too slow." His gaze wandered to the skewered boar carcass, black bristles matted with royal blood. "I should have left the beast to someone younger, yet none younger wears your crown." A soft voice approached with the crunch of leaves. Lord Eddard Stark's gray eyes carried the hearthfire of Winterfell and the frost of its long nights together. He knelt by the king's side, one hand swallowing Robert's huge fist in a grip of iron and brotherhood. Robert's answering clasp was weak, yet his grin fought its way through the beard gone too gray for his liking. "Ned. Ha! You should see the other fellow. The other fellow is roasting, thanks to Sir Robar." Ned nodded toward the campfire where the slain boar cracked and spat. "But it was a close thing. The tusks came for your belly." "Missed," Robert said. "I'll die of old age in my cups yet." But his eyes darted sideways, dark under the weight that wine could no longer blunt. "Ned, we must talk, and not here. Not with every bloody leaf listening." Ned heard the tremor, knew it hid more than pain. "When the maester allows you to ride, we'll return to King's Landing." "No." Robert's fingers tightened. "We ride today." Pycelle sputtered. "Your Grace, infection is for cowards. Strap me to the saddle if you must." Robert's laughter rasped like rusted chainmail. "I have ghosts to face while the blood's still wet." The procession crept from the Kingswood at dusk. Robert's destrier carried him stiff and silent beneath a patched cloak, the crimson sigil of the crowned stag hidden by plain wool. Guardsmen rode double-ranked, torches fluttering. The small council had not been summoned. Only Ned, Renly, and Sir Barristan made the ride. Even so, whispers chased the torches, for the king returned from a hunt on the wrong side of twilight without horn or song. King's Landing stank of river mud and tanneries, yet the city walls seemed almost welcoming after the hush of the wood. Robert's breath fogged within the steel rim of his helm, anger warming him more than the night fire. He rode straight for the Red Keep, ignoring the curious stares of goldcloaks at the Gate of the Gods. Inside the keep, servants scattered like mice before a cat. Robert dismounted in the courtyard with a grunt, waved away Pycelle's anxious hands, and strode for the Tower of the Hand. Ned followed, boots loud on marble. The guards at the door saluted. Robert pushed inside without ceremony, slamming the oak panels behind them. Torches guttered, throwing tall shadows across Ned's maps and cryptic ledgers. "Bar the door," Robert ordered. Ned slid the heavy iron bar into its socket. Robert leaned on the table's edge, head bowed. A feather of torchlight caught sweat on his brow. Though the chamber was cold, Ned waited. Robert lifted a roll of parchment from within his cloak, crinkled, stained with wine, creased as though handled 100 times. "You gave me this before I rode to the Kingswood." Ned's mouth felt dry. "I asked you to read it alone." "I did." Robert's voice was raw. 12 years on this damn chair and I never saw." "Gods, Ned. Why didn't you strike me with it sooner?" "Because proof was thin. I wanted truth, not rumors fit for a campfire." Robert opened the parchment. A cascade of names flowed down the page, noble lords traced through generations, their hair color noted in careful script. Black of hair. Black of hair. At the bottom, 3 royal children. Blonde of hair. All. "The seed is strong," Ned murmured, the words ashes in his throat. Robert's fist trembled around the scroll. "Strong enough to break a kingdom, aye. Do you believe it?" I believe what I wrote, Ned said. The lineage cannot be dismissed as chance. Robert's next breath came like a sword scraping free. Then Joffrey, Tommen, Myrcella, bastards, Jaime Lannister's bastards. Ned closed his eyes. Yes. Silence swallowed them whole. When Robert spoke again, the Warhammer thunder had drained from his voice, leaving only a father's grieving rasp. My boy. I watched him train with Renly's squires, dreamed of him wielding my hammer. Gods forgive me. There is still Shireen, Ned offered gently. Your brother's blood flows in Stannis' daughter at least. Robert gave a bitter snort. Stannis would parade her through the streets if he thought it would win him a crown. No, Ned, the Seven know I was no saint, but I'll not sit idle while Lannister whelped lions in my bed. What will you do? Expose her. Expose them all. Robert crushed the parchment. Before the realm is split asunder, Cersei will not yield quietly, Ned cautioned. And the Kingslayer? Hell answered to me. For a moment Robert was again the roaring giant of the trident, cheeks flushed from the gallop, hammer slick with royal blood. Yet time had tempered the steel, despair sat beneath triumph. The small council meets at dawn. Summon them. Will you have guards seize the queen? Not yet. I'll give her one chance, to confess and take the black with her children. The wall has room for she-wolves and cubs alike. Ned's face grew stern. Robert, the Night's Watch is sworn to men. No woman has stood the wall in 8,000 years. Now, then let history blink first. Robert's teeth bared in what might have been a smile, or the grimace of a wounded stag cornered by hounds. And if she refuses, the dungeons await. Cersei Lannister reclined upon a chaise of myrish green andesite, fingers absently stroking the rim of a goblet shaped like a blooming rose. Sweet arbor red glowed within, a ruby swirling under torch-lit ripples. Jaime lounged nearby, boot heels on the window ledge, the moonlight limning his leonine profile. You should sleep, he murmured. I will, when the world stops spinning. Cersei's smile was small, brittle. Joff keeps asking about the hunt. He fears father's prediction. One boar, and we have a new hand. Jaime chuckled softly. The boar would need a gilded carapace to pierce Robert's girth. Fear not. But the door flew open with a bang. Ser Meryn Trant stumbled inside, pale beneath his gold-plated half-helm. Your Grace, the king, he is alive. Cersei straightened. Of course he is alive, fool. He was to return tomorrow. He is already here, my queen. He rode in after dark, wounded, yet in armor. He has called a council at dawn. Nan. Jaime swung his legs down, cat silent. Wounded? How badly? Maester Pycelle says the fever broke, but the king's temper. Meryn swallowed. Cersei's gaze snapped to Jaime, words swift and sharp. He knows. Jaime's sword hand flexed by reflex alone. You can't be sure. He calls a council in the dead of night, and you tell me not to fret. Cersei stood, golden hair cascading down her back like wildfire light. He knows, and he will not be patient. Jaime stepped forward, twin glints of torchfire in his green eyes. Then we take the children and sail at once. Dragonstone, perhaps? Dragonstone? Stannis Grimrock? No. Cersei paced, the hem of her green velvet gown whispering. We must hold the city. With the hand still recuperating, Robert thinks he has only one lioness to cage. Jaime's gaze lingered on the pale scars at her collarbone, trophies of a wolf's bite from childhood. He exhaled. Then let me speak with him alone. One blade between his ribs would send the realm into open war. Cersei snapped. The hound's kennels would howl. The Tyrells would march. Father would be forced to choose between his grandchildren and the throne he covets. No, Paus. We will not fight flightless. Her gaze rose, flinty. We will play the game. At dawn the small council gathered in the echoing, blue-green gloom of the council chamber. 6 seats circled the oaken table. 7 if one counted the empty chair reserved for the Master of Whisperers. Varys drifted in last, hands steepled within lavender sleeves. He bowed, powdered face unreadable. Robert entered without fanfare. Black doublet strained across bandaged ribs. Barristan Selmy bore the sword that had slain Rhaegar, though its blade remained sheathed. Ned sat to Robert's right. Across from them, Lord Renly's handsome features were a careful mask of courtly concern. Grand Maester Pycelle hovered beside the hearth. Cersei arrived moments later, her children at heel like courtly shadows. Joffrey's chin jutted beyond the high collar of a crimson mantle. Tommen clutched a kitten embroidered upon his sleeve. Myrcella glided, all soft, shy smiles. Jaime walked 2 paces behind, left hand resting upon the lion-headed pommel of his sword. Robert's gaze smoldered. "My lords and ladies, I have summoned you because truth, long hidden, rots the foundations of this kingdom." Cersei inclined her head. "You speak of the boar's tusk, your grace. I have already arranged prayers of gratitude in the sept. No piety will mend this wound." Robert's voice cracked like winter ice. He rose, drawing from his belt the crumpled parchment. "Lord Stark has uncovered treachery, treachery that strikes at my very blood." A hush fell. Only the crackle of the fire dared speak. Ned stood, every inch the Lord of Winterfell, calm as a snow-mantled pine. "Your grace, what I revealed to you was no rumor. It was genealogy, a pattern running unbroken through centuries. House Baratheon yields children of dark hair and bold features until now. Your son and daughter show none of it, nor do their siblings." Renly's eyes widened. Pycelle gasped an aged wheeze. Jaime's hand inched toward his sword belt. Robert slammed the parchment upon the table. "These 3 are not mine. They are bastards born of incest, fathered by the Queensguard sworn to my service, Jaime Lannister. Memorwindar." Joffrey's shriek tore the air like a hawk. "Lies!" He sprang, but Jaime grabbed his arm, knuckles white. Cersei moved more slowly, a serpent in silks. She approached the table, lifted the parchment between 2 fingers, as though it were something that might soil her. "This scribble condemns us. How convenient, Lord Stark, and how loyal a friend, my husband, to listen without proof." Robert's face purpled. "Proof? I have more proof than you have shame. Witnesses saw you in Jaime's chambers at all hours. Midwives have spoken under oath." "Under whose oath?" Cersei's eyes glittered. "The North's, the Stormlands. Shall we ask the Vale next whether my womb belongs to their court?" Barristan Selmy cleared his throat, grave as a tomb. "Your grace, we might seek divine judgment. Trial by 7. Trial by combat." "No, Paul." Robert's palm struck oak. "No more trials, no more whispers. Cersei of House Lannister, I offer you mercy. Confess, and take the black. The children will accompany you." "Nile Duskar." The queen laughed, a sound as brittle as frost on old glass. "Take the black? You would exile the future of the realm to a wall of ice? They are not the realm, woman. They are bastards." Tommen began to cry, fat tears spilling onto brocade. Myrcella hugged him, eyes huge. Joffrey's face burned crimson, yet fear flickered beneath the outrage. Cersei's gaze swept the room, catching each counselor like a hook. "You would cast aside the crown's heirs for a suspicion. Lords of the council, will you watch your king unmake the realm for a parchment?" "None." Renly looked between Ned and Robert, mouth taut. Varys folded pale hands. Pycelle's beard tremored. It was Jaime who spoke. "Let us settle this quietly, Robert. For the love you once bore my sister, for the realm's peace, give us leave to depart King's Landing. We swear to cause no strife." "No strife?" Robert barked. "You caused it the moment you climbed into her bed." Guards. 4 gold cloaks entered, spears raised. Jaime stepped before the children, sword half drawn. The torchlight kissed Valyrian steel etched with soft ripples. Ned circled the table, hand on Ice's pommel. "Sir Jaime," he yelled, "do not stain this hall with children's terror." Jaime's smile was sad. "Children should not be used as blades either, Lord Stark." Cersei whispered to Joffrey, lips brushing his ear. The boy's face twisted, but he nodded. Then, with a single movement, Cersei turned and knelt before Robert. Her gown pooled like green water. "I confess," she said. Gasps rippled. Jaime froze, sword resting across his forearm. "I confess?" she repeated, gaze fixed on the flagstones. "The children are not yours. Jaime is their father." Her voice was quiet as falling ash. "But I will not take the black. I will not abandon my blood to the cold. Execute me if you must, but spare them." Robert's mouth opened, closed. "Spare them? They are the fruit of treason. They are innocent." Cersei lifted her chin, tears diamonding her lashes. "Punish me, not them." Jaime spoke now, voice low. "If you harm them, Robert, I will kill you here, wounded or no." Renly stammered, "Brother, this is madness." Robert gestured sharply. "Take the queen to the black cells. Jaime to the dungeons. Separate towers for the children until we decide their fate." His voice cracked on the last word. Cersei rose, regal even in chains. She brushed Joffrey's cheek. "Be brave, my lion." Guards seized her arms. Jaime's shackles clanked moments later. The twins were led away, yet not before Cersei's eyes locked on Robert. In that gaze burned prophecy, loss, and something older than either. 3 days passed beneath a sky bruised by summer storms. Lightning gnashed above the city, thunder rolling like drums of doom. Rumors sprouted like mushrooms after rain. The queen slain, the king poisoned, the hand fled. None knew truth, and so they crowded taverns whispering half. Within Maegor's holdfast, Robert paced the length of the throne room, heart drumming in old charge. Ned watched from beneath the Iron Throne's shadow, words coiling in silence. "At dawn we send ravens," Robert muttered, "to every great house. Let them know the truth. They will demand proof," Ned said. "And some will question forged letters. Then we parade Jaime and Cersei in chains through the streets," Robert snarled. "Let the realm see Lannister incest with its own eyes." "Humiliation breeds sympathy," Ned countered. "Better a quiet trial. Let the lords gather. Hear confessions under Septon's seal. The faith will lend weight." Robert's shoulders sagged. "By then Stannis will sail from Dragonstone. Renly will muster at Highgarden. They smell a weakened stag." Ned approached, voice gentler. "And if they do, we face them with truth, not fear. You crushed Rhaegar at the Trident. You can hold your brothers." "Rhaegar was a man," Robert whispered. "Brothers cut deeper than any dragon prince." A door opened. Varys glided in, slippered feet, whispering, "Your Grace, prisoners request audience." "Which?" "The Queen's father has yet to respond, but Sir Jaime begs to be heard. He swears it touches the children's safety." Robert shared a look with Ned. "Bring him." Moments later, Jaime Lannister strode in, wrists shackled but spine straight. His golden hair was dull beneath the torches, eyes shadowed. Robert sat upon the marble steps below the throne, not daring its iron spikes tonight. "Speak." Jaime's gaze flicked to Ned, then returned to the king. "Harm them, and the lion roars. You know Lord Tywin, Casterly Rock will rise." Robert's laugh was short. "Tywin has fewer men than my storm lords. Yet more gold," Jaime said. "Gold buys swords and sells kings. Ask the Mad King." Ned bristled. "Are you threatening regicide?" "I am reminding the king that peace carries a price lower than war." Jaime's chains clinked. "Send us to Casterly Rock. Exile us there. Let the children be raised among kin, far from the capital. The realm need not bleed." Robert hesitated. Ned saw the flicker. Father against warrior, king against friend. "No," Robert decided. "Exile sets a doubt that never dies. I will not build my reign on treason's mercy." Jaime's jaw tightened. "Then you build it on children's screams." Robert surged to his feet, fists clenched. "Enough. Take him back." Guards dragged Jaime away. Ned exhaled slowly, wishing he could pull Winterfell's cool night air into these halls of sweat and fear. In the Tower of the Hand, parchment multiplied faster than ravens flew. Ned penned letters to Winterfell, to River Run, to the Eyrie. He counseled vigilance, for war might sprout wherever distrust found water. Yet the North already stirred. Robb wrote of mustering banners. Catelyn urged him home to keep the wolves at bay. The Vale balked. Lysa Arryn's shutters barred, her ears deaf to reason. Edmure fretted. The Blackfish advised caution. Ned pushed on, quill scratching. Sansa cried nightly in her chambers. Dreams of marrying Joffrey turned to nightmares of gilded cages. Arya trained with Syrio, eyes like storms. Bran's fall was months past, yet the memory weighed heavier for the distance. Dark wings brought darker words. Balon Greyjoy repairing ships. Doran Martell silent behind Sunspear's heated walls. The Freys counting purses. The Boltons sharpening knives. And through it all, Robert drank less, but brooded more. Each day he visited the tower cells, staring through bars at Cersei, who sat upon straw like a queen upon satin, eyes alight with secrets she would never share. She never begged, never wept. She offered only one sentence the first time Robert appeared. "You chose your crown over our children." Robert had fled down the stair, tears streaming. On the 14th day after the hunt, the raven from Casterly Rock arrived. It bore no words, only a lion pendant snapped from a golden chain. Robert read the silence well enough. Tywin Lannister would not yield his blood to southern judgment. The king summoned the council. Rain hammered the windows, drums upon grave earth. "Tywin raises the west," Robert said. "Eni marches. We will march first." Pycelle quavered. "Your grace, half the Reach loves Renly, and Stannis plots from Dragonstone. If you leave the city, Stannis will not strike King's Landing while his brother sits the throne," Renly insisted. Robert scoffed. "He might if he thinks the throne empty." He pointed at Renly. "You will remain as Castellan." Renly's eyes flashed. "Brother, the people love me. Let me ride to Highgarden, raise the banners. The Tyrells will feed us men and grain." "Later," Robert snapped. "I need loyalty here. The Tyrells love gold and roses more than oaths." Ned spoke. "And Cersei? Jaime? The children?" Robert's face hardened. "We depart on the morrow for River Run to join the Tully host. I will take the prisoners with me, far from the city's whispers." "No." Varys coughed delicately. "Might I suggest leaving the little princes and princess here? The city sees symbols, not scandals. Remove them, and unrest spreads." Robert glared. "If Tywin takes the field, he takes it for them. I'll not gift him hostages." "The king is right," Ned said, though doubt gnawed his belly. "Let them remain under watch." Privately, Ned wondered whether watch enough existed in the realm to cage the lion's wrath once loosed. They left King's Landing beneath bruised clouds. Robert rode at the head, armor freshly polished but eyes dull. Ned rode beside him, and behind came a rattling wagon cage bearing Cersei and Jaime. The children rode in a second covered wagon, flanked by Stark guards and stormlords. Small folk watched from muddy lanes, silent as stones. Some spat, some wept. Word of incest traveled faster than ravens, and the tale grew monstrous with each retelling. In one, Jaime fathered all 3 children in a single night of black sorcery. In another, Cersei seduced Robert's brothers too. Truth mattered little once flames licked rumors kindling. On the second night, camped near Wendwater Bridge, a hooded rider approached Ned's tent. The guards challenged. The stranger raised empty hands. He was admitted wrapped in night-black cloak. Gray stubble framed a stubborn jaw, eyes sharp as new-forged steel. Stannis Baratheon Dada. Ned rose, surprised. "Lord Stannis," you rode swiftly. "I sailed," Stannis corrected. "Then rode." He wasted no breath. "Is it true?" "Yes." Stannis' mouth tightened. "And Robert lives?" "He does." "Then I am heir once more, if Joffrey be baseborn." "You are." Stannis considered Ned's face, searching. "Will Robert name me officially?" Ned hesitated. "He intends to, but war threatens. Lord Tywin marches. Let him." Stannis' voice was iron grinding iron. "I will rip the lion's cubs from his maw." Ned frowned. They are children. Children grow into foes, Stannis said. Fire them when small, and embers cannot ignite. I will not aid child killing, Ned said coldly. Stannis' gaze sharpened. You'd rather risk realm-wide bloodshed? Tywin will fight to place those bastards on the throne. Every day they live costs lives you cannot yet count. Basentwine. And every child slain costs your soul, Ned warned. Even if you sit the throne. I have no soul to spare. Stannis replied, tone flat. What matters is law. Baratheon law places me next. He turned to leave, Cloak whispering. Tell my brother I will see him at the Trident. Let him bring his prisoners there where he once won his crown. We'll see if he can keep it. Rain swelled the riverlands, turning roads to rivers of mud. Robert's host slogged onward, misery trailing like banners of wet wool. Each night, Ned slept uneasy, dreams of wolf pups chasing lion cubs through crimson fields. 3 times assassins crept into camp. Twice thwarted by the direwolf sigil stamped on guard shields. Once by luck and a hound's bark. The killers died without names, but Lannister gold clinked in their pouches. Robert drank again, though less. His men whispered that each cup dulled his guilt. Cersei remained silent in her cage, Jaime watchful. The children huddled together, pale and thin. Once Ned passed their wagon and saw Marcella whispering to Arya through the bars of a window slit. Arya pressed a finger to her lips and slipped Marcella a small wooden horse she'd whittled. Ned said nothing. At Maidenpool, ravens awaited with grim tidings. Renly had fled the capital with Sir Loras, making for Highgarden. Tyrell banners bloomed in the south. Stannis built siege engines at Storm's End, intending to close the King's Road behind Robert. And in the north, Robb Stark called banners. Ned crumpled the last letter. Heart thunderstruck. The boy means to guard Winterfell, yet lords will push him south on waves of vengeance. He rode hard to Robert's pavilion. Rain hammered the canvas like a legion of drummers. Robert sat alone, visorless helm upon his knees, torch flickering hellishly. Robb marches? Robert echoed after Ned spoke. He rubbed his beard. Your boy's got your iron. He's 15, Ned said. He follows lords who smell profit in war. Robert sighed. 18, I chased Lyanna. Thought I could fight a kingdom for her. Maybe we all chase ghosts. He looked up, eyes glassy. Ned, did I do right? Exposing them? Ned knelt, hand steady on the king's mailed forearm. You did what honor demanded. Robert barked a laugh. Honor, I used to think it a sword. Now it feels a millstone. He stared into torch flame where sparks danced like fireflies. If I die tomorrow, what song will they sing? Robert the Oathbreaker? Robert the Kinslayer? Robert the Just, Ned said. The king shook his head. No one sings of justice. They sing of dragons slain and maidens saved. Yet justice might save the realm now. Autumn's first true chill crept into the air when Robert's host reached the Trident's green banks. Across the wide river, a second host gathered, banners of the Lion gleaming crimson and gold. Lord Tywin sat his horse in the center, bright as a dawn sun in gilded armor. Behind him flowed ranks of Lannister spears, Westerland pikemen, sellswords in mismatched mail, war machines of bronze and iron. Ned's heart sank at their number. 10,000, 12, 15, counting sellswords, Sir Barristan guessed. But half are green lads or hedgelords chasing gold. Robert's own banners were fewer but hardened. Stormlords in black and yellow, river knights beneath Tully red and blue, and Stark spears who had marched farther than most men dared dream. The crown stag stood among trout and wolf, but lions outnumbered them all. Tywin's envoys rode forward under a white banner. Robert met them at the ford, Ned and Barristan at his side. Thunderclouds piled high above. Lord Kevin Lannister spoke, voice grave. My brother demands release of Cersei, Jaime, and the royal children. In exchange he offers safe passage to the king's host back to King's Landing, and a royal marriage alliance to heal these wounds. Robert spat into the shallows. I will release their heads. He may claim them from spikes upon the city walls. Kevin's face tightened. Then blood begets blood. My brother will cross at first light. So be it, Robert roared. Let the trident taste lion flesh again. That night, a hush deeper than prayer cloaked the camp. Torches burned low. Horses stamped restless. Somewhere a wolf howled, carried south on memory of snow. Ned lay sleepless in a commander's tent. Maps spread like flayed skins. He saw the ford lines, the river's bend, the clusters of trees where archers might hide. Yet his thoughts drifted to Winterfell, to Catelyn's laughter, to Bran's broken body learning to climb walls of his mind, if not stone. A rustle at the flap stirred him. Arya slid in, face streaked with dirt, hair a tangle. "Father." "What are you doing here?" Ned whispered, alarm flooding him. "I couldn't sleep." Tears glistened. "Joffrey says lions will eat wolves come dawn." Ned pulled her close. "Words of a frightened boy." "He isn't frightened. He's angry." Arya sniffed. "He says Mother will never forgive you." Ned's arms tightened. "Go back to your tent. At first light we march, and I need your promise you'll stay with the healers." "None want. I want a sword. You have needle. I want to use it. Not tomorrow." Ned kissed her brow. "Tomorrow you protect the healers. That is your battle." Arya wiped eyes and nodded. Ned watched her disappear. Small shadow against bigger night. For a moment he envied her clarity. The world split into swords and foes. For him, dawn would bring only blurred lines. Dawn crawled, crimson as spilled wine. Mists clung like fingers to rushes. Trumpets sounded from both banks. Soldiers moved, dull clatter of armor muffled by sodden ground. Robert donned steel with Pycelle's tight-lipped aid, wincing as plates pressed half-healed flesh. Ned secured ice across his back. Sebaristan mounted a white charger, cloak billowing. Robert addressed the gathered lords. His voice carried over great stillness. 12 years ago this river turned red, and a crown was hammered on my head. I did not win it to watch bastards sit it. Today we fight for truth. No plunder, no rapine, only justice." Spears drummed shields in answer. Banners shook like waking giants. And then the horns sounded, and the war of the trident began anew, not for a Targaryen dragon, but for 3 golden-haired children who might yet live or die by steel. Robert rode in the vanguard, hammer raised. Ned rode at his shoulder, Winterfell's gray direwolf snapping on a white field. Across the ford, Tywin's sons, Tyrion upon a stocky red stallion, Jaime shackled atop a black destrier under guard, were forced to witness, tokens and threats alike. And behind Tywin flowed the sea of red and gold. The river turned quickly to chaos. Horses screaming, men swept by currents, arrows sleeting. Robert splintered spears with each blow, his wounded side forgotten in the rhythm of war. Ned fought like the cold itself, precise and relentless. He felt each swing carve a path for his children's world. Yet even as victory or defeat hung unseen in mist, another battle raged far from the ford. In a guarded wagon at rear, Myrcella clenched Arya's wooden horse. Joffrey cursed, yanking at iron bars. Tommen sobbed. And Cersei, wrists chained, listened to distant horns, and thought of wildfire casks buried beneath the city, of prophecies whispered by an old woman with rotten teeth, of children wrapped in golden shrouds. She smiled then, a small secret smile. For win or lose, Cersei Lannister knew the game was only just begun. Gah! The first shaft of sunlight slid across the red and black mud like a blade being drawn, licking bronze rims and riveted joints with a coward's promise of warmth. On the crown of the western rise, Robert Baratheon sat his warhorse and watched the trident wake to slaughter. Beneath him his destrier shook out a breath so hot it smoked in the chill, but the king's own lungs worked harder, every inhale catching on the half-knitted wound beneath his breastplate. A wobbling ache, yes. Yet it felt alive, proof that the gods had not finished carving him. He lifted the hammer. Once that motion had surged from shoulder to wrist like thunder rolling down a mountain. Now it was a measured heave, deliberate as oath-taking. Still, the sight of the great steel head hanging like a small moon above the crowned stag on his shield drew a roar from the men massed below. They beat spear to scuttum in a rolling cadence. Storm lords and river knights and lean Northmen, with wolf badges darkened by wet. Robert drove the half skyward in reply, until the pain blossomed bright and dizzy behind his eyes. So be it, he thought. A man never feels more himself than in the moment pain and purpose meet. At his knee Ned Stark waited, visor open, the winter wolf on his gorget silvered by sunrise. For a long moment, neither spoke. They had said all that brothers could say the night before, in a quiet too thin for sleep to nest in. They had talked of Lyanna until words failed, and water gathered at the edges of Robert's sight, and Ned had gripped the king's arm without shame. Now the time for words was done. Only swords remain, Robert thought, and the nameless things that live between sword strokes. A horn called from the opposite bank, deep, leonine, and cold. Across the broad green-brown water, Tywin Lannister's host rolled into its own orders. Blocks of pikemen creaked their shafts to vertical. Pavises lifted like 1,000 gilded doors. Horse lines rippled as mounts stamped and shook their manes. Robert saw flashes of red enamel on thousands of helms, each a small bloody sun glinting over bronze faces. And standard poles. Golden lions rampant, 100 of them, prancing on squares of silk that tugged at the wind as if they would drag their bearers aloft. Between the two armies, the trident ran wide, its flood swollen from autumn rain. Where Robert meant to cross, the ford spread shallows no deeper than a man's waist, laced with bar-good gravel ridges that an armored horse might trust. Even so, the current sang fast. Faster than that other morning 12 years past, when Robert had smashed Prince Rhaegar's breastplate with one swing in river water ran pink around rubies. He wondered if the ghosts of that day would welcome him or spite him now. On the eastern shore, a smaller knot of banners caught his eye. Black-crowned stag on gold barring 3 crimson heart trees. Above the words, "Ours is the fury." Stannis, he thought. His brother had not crossed over from the Dragonstone Road yet, but his scouts were watching. What moves you, Stannis? Law or blood? He could not decide which truth frightened him more. A shadow fell long across the churned bank, the vast silhouette of Sir Barristan Selmy's white charger rising onto a ridge. The Lord Commander sat easy in the saddle, serene as marble and twice as hard to break. "Your Grace," he called. "Shields up." The archers test their reach. True enough, a whistle split the air, then another, until a hiss like locusts rolled in waves. Robert heard the wet thunk of a shaft in the earth near his stallion's hoof. He swung his shield without thinking, and caught the next arrow square. The jolt kicked up his ruined ribs. He laughed, raw, exultant, and over the shield rim he saw Ned Stark's thin mouth twist knowingly. Pain and purpose, Ned's eyes said. Stay alive long enough for one to outlive the other. The younger bannermen were jittering, stamping to keep courage from leaking out their boots. Robert spurred along the front, lifting his voice to them. A stag fears no river, and no river can drown a stag. He felt the ragged cheer follow him like a tide. Let Tywin dredge up all the gold in Casterly Rock and forge it into swords, Robert thought. A sword is only as sharp as the heart that swings it. Then the horns blew thrice in rapid stamps. Stark horns and Tully horns, and the rasping, brassy call of Storm's End, and the horsemasters loosed the forward reins. War reared up screaming. The first line of destriers plunged into the shallows, hooves kicking plumes that shimmered rose gold. Robert took the descent at a trot, teeth baring as the river wrapped his calves. Cold, gods. Colder than a north wind. Around him points of spears angled toward the far bank like a forest uprooting itself. Shields locked in arcs, pennons whipping back to slap armored thighs. Arrows fell again, hacking splashes waist-high. Men cried out. One rider to Robert's left pitched sideways and vanished under, limbs thrashing. Robert forced his mount on. Deeper, hammer held aloft. Ned pressed beside him, half a pace back, like a ghost tethered by honor. Halfway across, the water lifted Robert's mount so hard the beast faltered. Ceasing mane and gauntlet, he shifted weight forward. The destroyer found footing and lunged. A spray drenched Robert's visor. River silt blended with gore still crusted on his beard from the hunt. When he blinked clear, he saw the Lannister pikes braced along the shore, 8 ranks deep, iron tongues kissing river foam. For an instant, the line looked unbreakable. Then Robert's horse struck gravel, and time snapped. He bellowed the old words. No battle cry, just the raw authority that lives in a king's belly, and the first Stormlander wedge slammed the pikes. Wood splintered, pikemen reeled under the weight of pounding horseflesh. Robert rose in the stirrups, ignoring the fire in his ribs, and swung. The warhammer described a perfect black arc against the morning sky, and landed where a gilded lion faced a crowned stag. The Lannister helm caved like tin. Blood sprayed warm on Robert's wrist. A second, third swing. He lost count. Each impact traveled up his arms into the wound, turning inside him like a key in a rusted lock. The lock held. More pikes snapped. Shields crashed. The ford devolved into a crush where banners tangled and drowned. He glimpsed Sir Brynden Tully's trout standard twisting round a Lannister red gold. Saw a river knight drive his sword up to the pommel through a sellsword's belly. Saw Ned Stark dismount into the muck beside a downed bannerman to hold the line on foot, longsword ice gleaming a cold blue promise. They had gained 4 yards, no, 6, beyond the initial bristle of pikes, when a fresh roar erupted upland. Robert risked a glance. On the rise where Tywin had arrayed his heavy cavalry, a block of crimson barded warhorses broke into canter. The Lion's Guard, 500 chosen knights, mailed head to heel in gilded scale. Robert grinned through broken breaths. Come then. Run down Baratheon thunder if you dare. But they did not plunge the ford. They wheeled north instead, hooves tearing sodden turf, angling to flank Robert's second wave before it gained the shallows. The maneuver was bold, precise. Jaime's mind behind it, Robert guessed, if not his sword hand. For the Kingslayer remained in chains on the rear ridge, forced to watch with a guard either side, unable to wield so much as a dagger. Yet a man's mind could ride free of irons. Seeing the threat, Sir Barristan rallied the river knights left in reserve, and galloped upslope. Robert lost him in the surge. He turned his horse to carve deeper into the embankment, hammer rising. If the center buckled before the flank wheeled, their crossing would bottle at midstream. Men crushed beneath men until the ford itself choked with dead. Hold, he pleaded. Whether to the gods, the water, or Tywin he could not say. A horn closer at hand blared 3 rising notes, the northern call to regroup. Robert twisted. Ned was 30 feet behind now, boots sunk to shin in river mud, ice locked with a gilded longsword. Behind Ned clustered a knot of spearmen, shielding 3 fallen outriders. If that knot broke, the Lannister center might lap around Robert, severing hammer from anvil. Robert angled back. Pain stung like hornets, but he braced and brought the hammer down upon the sword, biting at Ned. Steel rang, jarring Ned's wrist free. The Lannister knight lurched. Robert's return swing crushed shoulder and helm alike. Ned nodded once, thank you, and move. All in the flicker of an eye, and stepped over another corpse to close a breach. Somewhere arrows hissed again. Robert, but for pure chance, felt the feathered fletch graze his helm's eye slit. Another found the neck of his horse. The destrier screamed, reared, toppled. Robert threw himself clear half a heartbeat before the stallion crashed sideways. Leg broken. His feet plunged knee-deep in silty water. The river tried to pull him down as the hammer's head sank like a stone. The first Lannister footman lunged. Robert smashed him left-handed. The second thrust. Robert wrenched the hammer up two-handed and stove his ribs. The weapon felt thrice its weight in water, but he kept it moving, because the moment it stopped he would drown under blades and grief. And then the ford's south bank was behind him, somehow. He saw flagging waterline at his calves instead of thighs. Felt firmer stones under shoe. They had gained the shore. Men were clambering up after him like stunned beetles. When his boots found grass, he bent double, sucking air. The world swam in fog. An iron tanged. Across the ford a third wave rushed. Rushing too fast, he saw Northmen banner-bearers, ankle deep, where pikes still jabbed. But the Lannister line here was broken. He straightened, turned upslope, and roared for advance. 20 loyal knights, and as many spearmen formed around him, shields aloft, hacking spear stubs, gaining yards. The hillside was slick with churned soil and entrails. Ahead, Tywin's gilded pavilion stood like a beacon on the ridge, flanked by catapults not yet unlimbered. Robert wanted that ridge. A stray arrow hammered his shoulder guard. Another kissed the rim of his helmet. He ignored both. Halfway up, the hillside plateaued into a stretch of flattened grass, where the Lannister second rank rallied. Plate and mail, and boiled leather, crunched in roiling mass. Robert's hammer rose and fell, each blow ripping new pain through his healing wound. His senses blurred to scent, and clang, and warmth on skin not his own. Faces traded places with helms. Lives shortened like candles slapped flat. Something struck him square in the side like a siege ram. It was a man, armored, wheeling round with a longsword raised two-handed. Robert parried clumsily with the hammer's haft. The blow glanced but tore leather. Hot wetness spilled inside his cuirass. The man came on. Robert smashed, missed, smashed again, and felt ribs inside him crunch. His or the foe's he could not tell. The knight staggered, helm half torn away, and Robert recognized Kevan Lannister. Lines of gray cut Kevan's face. His eyes swam. "Yield," Robert spat, chest aflame. "Kill me if you would." Kevan gasped, raising his blade again. Robert obliged. The hammer caved helm and skull, and drove the body to earth in a heap of red. A cheer rose somewhere behind him, but Robert tasted only copper and bile. He turned for the next foe, and beheld Tywin Lannister at last. The Lord of Casterly Rock had dismounted, gold-rimmed Greetham beneath one arm, longsword unsheathed. His face was calm, patrician, untouched by gore. The eyes reminded Robert of twin lion coins, bright, heavy, impossible to bend. Tywin studied the bodies between them. "You might have been a good king, Baratheon," he said, voice low as cellar air, "but good men rarely stay kings." Robert laughed, a ragged bark. "I was never a good man, old lion. Kingslayer's proof of that." He gestured with the hammer. "Shall we see what I become when you die?" Tywin inclined his head fractionally. "We shall see what the realm becomes, at least." They closed. Robert's hammer weighed thrice what the old lion's sword did, but Tywin had reach and ice-cool timing. He slid in to thrust at Robert's hip. Robert pivoted, hammer low, and swung crossbody. Sword kissed hammer shaft and sparks spat. Tywin rolled the blow aside, stepping inside the arc, blade flicking at Robert's unarmored forearm. Steel kissed flesh. Robert felt the bite, shallow but bright. He answered with a knee that took Tywin in the gut. The Lion Lord bent, and the rounded backside of the hammerhead rammed his scaled pauldron, denting bronze. Tywin staggered 3 paces, found stance, reset. Behind him the slope roiled with men, but none dared join, for Barristan Selmy and the Kingsguard knights of Robert's party had carved a circle round the duel. Barristan, helm lost, white cloak shredded, held the perimeter with half a dozen sword strokes that etched a ring in blood. Robert advanced. His breath rasped. The wound under his plating burned like a fresh forge. He jabbed the hammer forward, feinting. Tywin parried low and counter-thrust for Robert's throat. Robert twisted, felt steel scrape gorget, and answered with an overhead crush that Tywin barely sidestepped. The blow splintered the haft slightly. Robert's gauntlet stung as wood cracked. "Getting slow," Tywin said without triumph. "Getting old," Robert corrected through clenched teeth, and wrenched the hammer half a spin, bringing the claw spike side around. He drove in a hook. Tywin angled his cuirass. The spike skittered, peeled gold leaf from steel, and stuck a finger breadth deep. Tywin's mouth tightened. He replied with a slash across Robert's midriff. The blade rang off plate but jarred the hurt beneath. Robert staggered. A horn keened distant, urgent, Nen's call. Robert risked a glance downslope. The Lion's Guard wedge, that had tried to flank them, lay broken under piles of dead horses. Barristan's countercharge had smashed them utterly. Good. But further north, a fresh storm of green and gold banners was cresting the far ridge. Tyrells. Highgarden had come early. Robert's blood chilled. Too many men still in the ford. If Mace Tyrell pinned the Stark rear while Tywin rallied, half his host could be drowned in the trident by nightfall. He turned back, too slow. Tywin's sword darted for the gap beneath his left armpit, where plate met mail. Robert jerked aside. The edge scored ringlinks and grazed flesh. He roared and shoved forward bodily, hammer heft crosswise. The shove sent Tywin sprawling onto one knee. Robert raised the hammer high, but his ribs screamed, white fire across his vision. The world tilted. He felt rather than heard a pop inside his chest and tasted blood. His arms locked half lifted, tremor running elbow to wrist. Tywin rolled aside, came up, and slashed. The sword tip carved the side of Robert's helm, ripped skin at his cheek. He saw sparks and red fog. Instinct lifted the hammer in desperate block. Steel rang off steel, launching ache through shattered ribs. Then another clang. A high, clear note that froze them both. Tywin stepped backward, eyes narrowing past Robert's shoulder. Robert turned, confused. Ned Stark stood there, breath ghosting silver. Ice leveled horizontally in both hands. His hair clung dark with river water. Blood sheeted his left pauldron. At his back, 2 Northmen bore the direwolf banner, torn and crusted but held high. Between them sprawled 3 Tyrell outriders felled by Ned's run through the flank. The Lord of Winterfell spoke, loud enough for all to hear. "Your Grace, our center holds, but the Tyrells close fast. We must withdraw across the ridge and reform." Tywin's eyes flicked to the distant green and gold tide, reading the same story. He sheathed his longsword in sudden, sharp motion. "Baratheon," he called. "Claim your field. I will claim mine. Let us see which seeds sprout come spring." Without waiting, he turned and strode through the ring of steel. His guards parted. In moments he was gone, swallowed by retreating crimson mail. Robert sagged, half kneeling. Ned was at his side instantly, bracing him. "Easy, easy," Ned murmured. "Ribs worse. Broken anew." Robert wheezed but kept his feet. Tywin retreats, falls back to his camp, for now. Ned's eyes followed the crimson flow. "If the Reach joins him in force, we cannot hold this river with the numbers we have. Then we meet him inland," Robert grated. "Draw him from his water supply. Leave his gold to thirst." He coughed wetly. "But first, get me a damned maester." They limped back through carnage, Barristan covering the withdrawal. The ford was theirs, pikes shattered, lions scattered, but victory tasted of river silt and copper and cold terror of what came next. Robert passed the fallen. Banners trampled into mud, men calling for mothers who would never answer, horses screaming final breaths. He counted the dead who wore his colors and knew each life a stone tied to his crown. Behind the ridge, surgeons worked in knee-deep gore. Pycelle, pale and shaking, ordered poultices boiled while Stark and Tully squires ferried water like ants. When Robert arrived, they cut the breastplate away. Saw ribs cracked in 2 new places, one piercing muscle. The king endured the needle with jaw clenched and eyes on Ned. Because if he let them close, he would see Kevin's crushed helm again, hear Tywin's promise in that cellar-cool voice. As they bound his chest, ravens flapped above camp like doubloons tossed blank into air. Scouts rode in, cloaks streaming. Reports tumbled. Renly had vanished from Highgarden with Sir Loras and half a company of Tyrell outriders. Destination unknown. Stannis massed galleys off Wendwater, blocking the King's Road ferries. The Eyrie refused passage to Lannister envoys. Dorne sat silent. Ned brought each tidings, calm as a god's wood pool. Robert listened, silent until all reports spent. At last he spoke. "The realm splits faster than we mend." He flexed, injured hand. Winced. "We need alliances sown swift." Ned nodded. "The River Lords bleed with us. The North stands. If the Reach wavers, we must court the Vale or Dorne." "Hey!" "Lysa Arryn hides behind her cliffs," Robert growled. "And Dorne still smolders for Elia." His head thumped with dull iron pulses. "But there is one alliance none expect." Ned waited. "Tyrell gold loves Tyrell glory. Renly loves Loras Tyrell. Robert's cracked lips bent. If we hand Renly a promise of succession, after Stannis, gods help me, if Stannis will bend, we may pry Highgarden from Tywin's claws. Stannis will not yield precedence, Ned warned. Nor will Renly bow. Then let them duel on a council chamber floor instead of the battlefield. Robert gulped water, flinched. We call a grand council at Harrenhal. Seals from every major house. As in Eris's day, but without dragonfire. You trust them all beneath one roof? I trust nothing but choice. Give them choice between council and carnage. Robert's blue eyes burned fever bright. And after that, I trust my hammer. Ned inclined his head. Very well. I will draft the summons at once. And Ned, send ravens to Winterfell. Tell Robb he is to hold the neck, not march. If he disobeys, I'll send a crow after his mother. Robert managed a pained grin. Ned snorted softly. Catelyn will hawk him back to sense. He paused. What of the prisoners? Robert's grin died. His eyes found the wagon cage at Camp Center, where Cersei sat on a stool, lightning slitting clouds behind her like claws. Joffrey paced, feral. Tommen curled small. Myrcella sat stone still with Arya's carved horse clutched. Jaime hulked in bonds, staring into fire. For now they ride with us, Robert said quietly. Council may judge them. He turned his face away then, because something inside him twisted at the sight of Myrcella's hair catching stray torchlight like burnished wheat. His daughter. He had called her daughter for 9 years. What name dared he call her now? That night storms found the army. Rain hammered shields propped as lean-toes. Lightning painted 1,000 torn banners bone white. In Robert's pavilion the king lay half-propped on furs, bandages fresh, skin clammy. Ned lingered by the flap, quill ready. You should rest, Robert murmured. So should you, Ned replied. Later. Robert stared past canvas toward some memory neither wine nor war could drown. Do you think Lyanna would forgive me? Ned swallowed. For what? For everything after losing her. Wind rattled the poles. Ned answered slowly. Lyanna forgave freely, but she would have expected you to forgive yourself also. That was her mercy. Robert shut his eyes. Mercy. A hollow thing for kings. He inhaled sharp, grimaced. Leave me now. Dawn brings too much steel. Ned departed. Robert drifted toward uneasy sleep until a soft voice spoke beside his cot. He jolted, hand flailing for a dagger. Found none. A hooded shadow knelt in torch glow. Varys, how did you creep past the guards? Robert growled. I have secrets, your grace, the eunuch whispered. And one more for your ears alone. Robert's hand curled into fist. Speak, spider, but walk gentle. My patience bleeds faster than my wound. Varys bowed his bald head. There is talk of wildfire beneath the city. Casks laid in tunnels years ago, primed for a queen's vengeance should harm befall her brood. He paused, weighing words. Cersei Lannister knows every fuse. Should she escape, King's Landing may burn brighter than the Mad King ever dared imagine. No. Robert felt ice crawl down his spine. You bring this now? I did not wish to burden your grace while battle raged. Now that you plan council, know the stakes. Varys's painted lips pursed. A single spark could kill 100,000 small folk. The city would be ash, and your throne with it. Robert forced a breath. Then the queen cannot be allowed near those vaults again. Nor can news of wildfire reach Lord Tywin, Varys cautioned. Some fires start with a whisper. Robert closed eyes. Spider, you will find every cache, extinguish flood, whatever it takes. I care not if streets cave behind you, just do it. I obey. Varys rose like a wisp. One more thing, Robert said. If I die before council sits, see that Stannis or Renly, whichever lives to claim, never learns who placed the fuses. Some truths breed only fury. As you command. And the eunuch was gone. Sleep did not come. Rain drummed hour after hour, each drop pounding questions into sore flesh. Robert wondered whether any king in history had ever felt small the night before greatness. Or if greatness itself was a lie men told while staring at dead friends to keep from screaming. By dawn the storm blew east. The air smelled washed, raw. Crows wheeled over the ford pecking at that which battle had left. Robert rose stiff, bound plates over new bandages, grimaced at each buckle. When he stepped outside, Ned and Barristan waited with fresh intelligence. Tywin withdraws west, Ned said, toward River Run's northern road. He means to link with whatever forces Renly cannot sway. None. And the Tyrells? Mace Tyrell camps 6 leagues south. He probes our perimeter but has not joined Tywin. His envoys speak of neutrality. Robert snorted. Neutrality is a coin, hell, only spend when the price is clear. He mounted a new charger, black with a white blaze, gift of Lord Mallister. The motion burned but he steadied. We marched northeast to Harrenhal, set outriders in rings. If Tyrell or Lannister shadow us, we send parties to cut their forage. Ned nodded. And the prisoners? Move them in the center column, Robert said after a breath. Double guards. Any assassin who reaches those wagons will taste my hammer next. The order given, the army shifted. Supply wagons creaked, banners lifted, men fell to ranks. The great host uncoiled from camp in 3 uneven columns. Morning sun flashed on helms, on river pools stained with fish-belly sheens of rendered fat. Wind set the crowned stag banner snapping, and Robert felt each snap in his chest. As the king rode along the prisoner wagon, he saw Cersei watching through iron bars. Rain had flattened her hair, washed makeup from her cheeks, yet her eyes burned fiercer, a green not a field or gem, but a flame before it devours wood. Their gazes locked. She raised her chin, lips moving silently. He thought he read the name Joffrey. For a moment he saw the boy as a babe again, pudgy fists clutching his finger, eyes bright with wonder at a father's beard. Robert's throat closed. He tore his gaze away. The host wound uphill away from the ford. Behind them, the Trident resumed its lonely rush, carrying fragments of broken banners downriver, toward a sea that cared nothing for lions or stags, or the quarrels of men. Days passed on churned roads. Harrenhal's black towers loomed in distance, jagged teeth biting sky. Scouts returned nightly. Tywin's host skirted south by west, regathering sellswards. Stannis held Storm's End now, demanding recognition. Rumors claimed Renly had crowned himself at Bitterbridge with a crown of golden roses. Robert listened stone silent. Each rumor, like an arrow, found the cracks in his armor. On the 5th dusk, as their vanguard crossed the God's Eye shore, a riot of color met them. Velvet tents sprawled under Harrenhal's shadow, banners of martlet and merman, of unicorn and boar. Hosts of the Riverlords answered early. Lord Hoster Tully, grey and gaunt, awaited them on the causeway, leaning on Brynden Blackfish. At sight of the bedraggled royal column, he bowed stiffly. "Tarry not, your grace. Storms gather bigger than these towers." "Then let us meet them inside," Robert said, voice hoarse. Within Harrenhal's ruined hall of 100 hearths, flickering torches painted monstrous silhouettes on melted stone walls. Lords assembled to greet their king. Blackwood and Bracken keeping wary distance, Piper jesting too loudly, Mallister grave. They knelt, pledged swords, spoke courtesy. Robert answered by rote, eyes flicking always to door, expecting Tyrell envoys or Stannis' outriders, or, gods forbid, pyromancer's glyphs in green. None came, not yet. That night, in a drafty solar overlooking the God's Eye, Robert gathered Ned, Barristan, Varys, Grand Maester Pycelle, and Hoster Tully. On a trestle table lay scrolls, ravens carrying replies to the summons for a great council. Some seals broken, others still drying wax. "Read," Robert ordered. One by one, Ned slit scrolls. The Vale. Lady Lysa would not leave her son's side, but Ser Vardis Egan and 2 Maester-chosen knights would attend. Dorne. Prince Doran Martell would send his son Quentyn as observer, no more. The Iron Islands. Silence. The Reach. Lord Mace Tyrell committed in principle, but required assurances regarding safety of his daughter Margaery, who resided presently at Bitterbridge with Renly. Pycelle's beard quivered at every safety. Danis Courier's message was shortest. Law commands. I will come. Nothing more. Robert exhaled. Enough. We set the council for 7 days hence. That gives Tywin his chance to appear. If he refuses, the realm will judge him by absence. And if he appears in steel rather than satin? Hoster asked. Robert laid the hammer on the table between candles. Then Harrenhal has thick walls enough for steel. After the lords departed, Robert lingered with Ned. Outside, wind moaned through cracks Aegon's fires had made centuries before. I feel the walls remember dragons, Robert said quietly. Their heat still in the stone. Stone remembers, Ned agreed. He hesitated. Do you trust Varys? As much as I trust cats in fish markets. Robert rubbed brow. Yet his whispers saved more throats than they cut of late. The wildfire rumor? Ned probed. More than rumor. Robert's shoulders sagged. If Cersei dies or escapes, King's Landing burns. Varys has men scouring each tunnel. But secrets are slip snakes. Ned squared jaw. If you wish, I'll ride to the capital myself, see it safe. Leave me at Harrenhal with these vultures. Robert managed to laugh. No, Ned. I need a wolf beside me. They spoke little after that. Ned poured Robert a single cup of watered wine, stood watch as the king drank, then saw him to bed. When Ned finally sought his own blankets, he found Arya curled on them, boots muddy, wooden practice sword clasped. She started as he entered, eyes wide. Father? Go on, he sighed, drawing his cloak aside. I heard guards say the Tyrell knight with the fancy cloak. Sir Loras rides north with Renly. She fiddled with a horse carving missing from her pocket. Will we fight them too? We will meet them, Ned said, easing boots off. Perhaps swords will not. Perhaps they will, Arya murmured. She tucked practice sword under chin. I won't let anyone hurt Myrcella. Ned looked sharply. You've spoken again. She cries most nights, Arya whispered. She's like Sansa used to be, before King's Landing changed her. Ned's heart squeezed. Politics of men and crowns felt distant beside soft tears of girls. Protect who you can, little wolf, he said. But beware windows without bars. Arya frowned, puzzled. But sleep found her before questions did. Elsewhere, in a tower cell high above the hall, Cersei felt the stone beneath her palms, remnant heat of ancient dragons. She closed lids to imagine wildfire surging through vaulted tunnels, green and hungry. She knew cities burned quick, but ideas burned slower, and she had planted seeds already. In Joffrey's fury, in Tommen's quiet terror, in Myrcella's gentle heart carved by a wolf girl's kindness. Seeds of fire and seeds of love, both could shatter crowns. All she needed was time and one loose brick in this black castle. The brick she found that very night, deep in the back corner, damp mortar softened by centuries of storm. She pressed, felt it shift. She smiled in the dark. 5 days to counsel, Robert counted. 5 days to weigh truth against gold, law against love, blood against fire. 5 days, he told himself, to hold broken ribs together and remember why a hammer still mattered once a crown weighed heavier than any war. He lay awake staring at beams scorched long ago, listening for dragons breathing in cracks only a king might hear, and wondering if justice, once born, could live long enough to grow old. Gekena. Atop the ramparts of Harrenhal, night crept down in 1,000 shadows, and the black wind curled the voices of the dead. Robert Baratheon, King of the Andals, first of his name, stood between iron merlons, one hand pressed to his wrapped ribs and the other wrapped around a battered wineskin. He drank little, only enough to numb the edge of pain. Below, torchlight lapped the muddy camps, and the sound of hammers carried, carpenters raising barricades, masons reinforcing ancient towers, the busy work of an army bracing for siege or betrayal, whichever came first. He watched rain sweep across the God's Eye in silver veils, reflecting stars and broken shivers. Harrenhal was too vast, too ruined, a relic from when men thought themselves dragons and built tombs to match. The stone walls, fused in places by fire, seemed always to weep. The very air tasted of loss. Yet it was here Robert would gamble the realm. One council, 7 days, all houses invited, and all the grudges of Westeros stowing under one melted roof. In the black waters below, even the reflection of the moon trembled. Footsteps echoed behind him, soft over hard stone. Ned Stark emerged from gloom, his gray cloak stirring. For a long time, neither spoke. The wind made Ned's hair wild, set his eyes to silver beneath the night. "Ravens from Winterfell," Ned finally said, voice low. "Robb's banners hold the neck. No lords have crossed. Catelyn writes that Rickon speaks your name each night to the fire." Robert's mouth twisted. Small comfort. His voice was sandpaper and sorrow. "We hold Harrenhal, but for how long? Tywin stalks the riverlands. The Tyrells wait for their roses to bloom, and Stannis eyes us like a hawk eyes crippled prey." He looked east, where campfires crawled in endless lines down the old King's Road. 7 days, and all could burn. "Yet the lords come," Ned said. "Blackwood, Bracken, Mallister, Piper, Frey, Royce, all ride for Harrenhal. Even the Eyrie sends knights." Robert grunted, shifting weight. "Lysa sends knights, not her own blood. She clings to that boy as if his shrieks might ward off lions." "And Dorne, Quentin Martell crossed the Tumblestone this morning," Ned said. "He brings 5 companions and a maester. No swords drawn yet." Robert snorted. "Yet." He glanced at Ned, searching his friend's face for a promise that could not be given. "When council begins, I will name Stannis as my heir, not Joffrey. It must be clear to all. The realm cannot have doubt." Ned nodded slowly. "The law is with you, but men's hearts, they are slow to turn from what they have known." Robert's laugh was bitter. "Hearts, Ned, or pockets. Gold is a better king than any of us." Ned looked down at the torches, his voice as soft as the wind. "What if the council breaks to blood, not law?" Robert's jaw flexed. "Then I do what kings must. I end the threat, no matter how much it hurts." His gaze sharpened, old iron in the blue. "I will not let another mad king be born, not from my own bed." A silence. Somewhere, an owl hooted. Far below, a child wailed, the sound swallowed by Harrenhal's vastness. Ned's breath was a cloud. "Have you spoken with Cersei?" "Every day," Robert said quietly. "She looks at me with eyes that promise storms." "She hates me, Ned, more now than ever." He shook his head. "She would burn the world to save her children, even knowing what they are." "She may try," Ned said. "Varys continues to hunt for wildfire caches. He says some tunnels are sealed, but he cannot know for sure." "Then?" Robert let the wineskin hang from his fist. "If King's Landing burns, let the ashes remember who lit the fire." He straightened, turned his face into the wind. "The dawn comes, and with it the council. Pray that the realm survives our choices." They stood together until the night began to thin. 2 old friends bound by 1,000 regrets and the hope, slim as a child's cry, that honor could yet save them all. At sunrise, Harrenhal's hall of 100 hearths filled with banners. Some hung tattered, others freshly sewn, but all were marked with the weight of their histories. Direwolves, trout, lions, roses, falcons, suns, unicorns, krakens, even the flayed man of Bolton. They came in procession. Lords and ladies, knights and sworn swords, squires bearing proud sigils and priests, murmuring prayers for peace. The table stretched the length of the hall, crowded with men and women who eyed each other with suspicion. Between cracks in the stone, cold draughts swept, and everywhere the eyes of the dragon skulls, trophies from Aegon's day, glittered in torchlight. Robert entered last, in black and gold, crown plain, hammer held high. His gait was stiff, every motion a silent agony. But his presence filled the vastness as surely as a storm fills the sky. Ned flanked him on the left, Barristan and Selmy on the right, each in armor, faces grim. The murmurs stilled. The king's voice, when it came, was thunder shaped into words. Lords of Westeros, I welcome you to council." He waited, measuring their silence. "We are here not for our own houses, but for the realm itself. Treason has been revealed, treason that cuts to the heart of the throne. I do not come to ask for loyalty born of fear, but for truth, as the gods grant us the strength to bear it. Nesedi." He turned, gestured. Ser Barristan brought forth Cersei and Jaime Lannister in chains, followed by the 3 royal children, their faces pale as wax. Joffrey stared at the lords with hatred. Tommen wept softly, and Myrcella clutched a wooden horse in her small hands. Robert addressed the room. "These children, born to my queen, are not of my blood. Their true father stands beside them. The realm has been lied to, and the line of succession polluted. Today, before the eyes of gods and men, I strip them of claim to the crown. I name Stannis Baratheon as my heir. Let any who contest this rise and be heard." End. A silence as vast as Harrenhal's ghosts. At the high table, Tywin Lannister sat as still as a carving, his green eyes glinting like shards. Renly Baratheon, fresh-faced and bright in Tyrell green, kept his gaze steady, hands folded. Mace Tyrell's bulk leaned forward, greedy for every word. Doran Martell's son Quentyn watched from beneath dark lashes, unreadable. For a long breath, no one spoke. Then Lord Hoster Tully, his voice trembling from age and illness, stood. "The law is clear. The crown passes to Stannis. My house will honor that law." One by one, others followed. Lord Jason Mallister, Lord Vance, Lord Blackwood, then, at last, Lady Anya Waynwood of the Vale. The North remained silent, but all eyes turned to Ned Stark. He rose. "House Stark stands with the king. The law is the shield of the weak and the measure of the strong. If it is broken, no one is safe." The wave continued. More lords rose, most eager, some reluctant. Tywin Lannister did not stand. Robert fixed him with a look of lead. "And House Lannister?" Tywin's face was stone. "The honor of my house has been impugned. My daughter shamed. My blood cast in irons. Yet the law is what it is. The Westerlands will not contest succession, provided my kin are spared." A stir in the hall. Robert nodded, grim. "Cersei and Jaime will live, but must take the black. The children?" His voice caught. "They are blameless of their birth. They shall be fostered at River Run under Lord Tully's protection, safe but far from the throne." Cersei's cry split the silence, animal and raw. "No, you cannot take them from me." "Maine." Jaime bowed his head. Joffrey lunged against his guards, spitting curses. Myrcella whimpered. Only Tommen, round-eyed and silent, looked at Robert with something like pleading. Robert felt the wound open again, somewhere deeper than flesh. "This is the price of your lies. If you had spoken truth." He trailed off, the weight of history closing his throat. Ser Barristan drew Cersei and Jaime back. Ned motioned for the children to follow Lord Hoster's men. For a moment, Harrenhal trembled with the strain of sorrow, loss, and the knowledge that peace bought with such pain would not soon be forgotten. The council resumed. Varys read aloud the charges. Treason, incest, false heirs. Pycelle, hands shaking, confirmed the old records. Every Baratheon son born with hair black as midnight, every Lannister child fair. The council voted, one by one. Some houses abstained. Most agreed. Stannis Baratheon, Lord of Storm's End, was to be named the new heir, with Robert's blessing. By nightfall, the deed was done. Robert signed the writ, the royal seal pressed deep in red wax. Stannis would inherit a kingdom torn but not yet broken. Yet peace in the hall was not peace beyond the walls. Word spread like fire through the camps, to riders who carried it on restless roads, to hedge knights and sellswards, who listened to every rumor. Tywin Lannister's camp seethed with anger and shame. Banners lowered, men drank and spat oaths. The Tyrells preened, Mace half believing his house could now wed Marguerite to Stannis or Renly, and claim the throne's velvet for themselves. The Dornish watched, calculating, their faces masked. The next day messengers galloped from Harrenhal to every corner of the realm. The king's will, the council's decree. the fate of the queen and her children. But peace, that most delicate of hopes, had not yet taken root. 3 days after the council, as the lords planned to depart, a storm broke over Harrenhal, black clouds rolling, thunder clawing at the walls. In the blackness, chaos bloomed. It began with fire in the dungeons. Screams echoed up the spiral stairs, prisoners set free, guards slain. Men raced down corridors, swords drawn, faces painted orange by flame. Ned heard the clash and ran, Barristan on his heels. By the time they reached the dungeons, the air was thick with smoke. In the confusion, Cersei and Jaime vanished. The guards lay dead or dying, throats slit, one with a lion's headpin pressed into his palm. The tracks led through a broken sally port and out into the black woods. Robert, woken by the uproar, limped to the hall in his nightshirt, hammer in hand. "What is it?" he barked, voice raw. Ned's face was pale in the candlelight. "They're gone. The Lannisters had help. Some of Tywin's men, perhaps. They took horses, weapons. The children are safe, but Cersei and Jaime are gone." Robert staggered, pain and rage warring. "Seal the gates, hunt them, bring me their heads if you must." But dawn brought only emptiness. Cersei and Jaime Lannister had vanished into the wild, leaving behind dead men, a burning gatehouse, and questions that would fester. The next days passed in turmoil. Robert's host searched the woods. Hounds tracked scents, banners spread, but the Lannister twins were gone. Tywin, when confronted, professed ignorance, his cold eyes never wavering, his words as smooth as steel. The lords began to leave. The Tullys returned to Riverrun, taking the royal children. The Tyrells marched for Highgarden, the Martells rode south. Renly vanished in the night, and news reached Harrenhal that he had been crowned at Bitterbridge, another king in a kingdom already split. Stannis arrived at last, grim as death, to take his brother's blessing and the crown's burden. He and Robert spoke in private for hours, the words lost to history. But when Stannis emerged, his jaw was set and his eyes as cold as the stones of Dragonstone. Robert called the final council. The lords assembled, tired and weary. "The realm is not healed," the king said, his voice hoarse, "but it is saved. The law stands. Let none challenge it, lest they answer to crown and council alike." He looked at Ned, pain and gratitude mingling. "Thank you, old friend. The realm is yours to watch over now." Ned shook his head. "It is all of ours. Let us keep it safe if we can." "No." And so they parted. Robert to King's Landing, battered but alive, the Lannisters on the run, Stannis crowned heir. The realm did not rejoice, but neither did it burn. Not yet. But on the roads, and in the shadows, whispers grew. Some said Cersei and Jaime had fled north, to the Neck or beyond the Wall. Others claimed Tywin would raise the West in vengeance, that the old lion would never forgive or forget. In the Reach, Renly raised his banners. In the islands, Balon Greyjoy sharpened his knives. Dorne waited, silent and watching. And in the Red Keep, Robert sat the Iron Throne, his ribs aching, his heart bruised but unbroken. Each day he sent ravens to the Wall and beyond, hunting his queen and her brother. Each night he drank little, for the pain never faded. But hope returned with every letter from Stannis, every report of Ned's justice in the Riverlands. Arya trained in Winterfell's yard, Sansa wrote letters to the children at Riverrun, and Robb kept the peace at the Neck. Bran's dreams grew strange, and Rickon learned the names of the wolves. Far to the east, dragons hatched in shadow and flame, but for a brief, fragile season, the kingdom did not burn. In Harrenhal, the halls echoed empty, but if you listened closely, you might hear the whispers still. Of kings and queens, brothers and sisters, children spared and children lost, and the heavy, heavy cost of justice bought with love. And in every corner of Westeros, men and women watched the skies, waiting to see if the new dawn would last, or if the night would return with fire and vengeance, as it always had before. The rain did not stop for 3 days. Each morning it pressed down on Harrenhal like a shroud, muting banners and voices, soaking the camps, so that the very earth bled mud. The ruined keep, became a warren of hurried meetings, locked doors, and hurried plans. Each noble who lingered seemed to leave a shadow behind, as if waiting for news or for permission to run. In the high hall, Robert Baratheon moved among his lords with slow, careful steps, his bandaged side stiff beneath his new black and gold doublet. His eyes looked shrunken, the whites threaded by pain and sleeplessness, but his voice, when it came, was iron. Each morning, ravens returned with new trouble, fighting in the Riverlands as Lannister outriders harried the edges of the Tully lands. Renly's new banners raised at Bitterbridge, Stannis men arriving by the score, hard and silent. Lord Tywin Lannister's pavilion was a fortress of pride and protocol. He remained at Harrenhal, claiming innocence in Cersei and Jaime's flight, but each night men vanished from his host. Quiet nights, gold-cloaked servants, even cooks and squires. The West was unraveling under his hands, and he watched each thread with eyes of brass, face unchanging. Varys reported gold spent in secret, sellswords summoned to every road. Ned Stark moved quietly through the damp corridors. He met with every house, large and small, whispering the same words: peace, law, the need for patience. He found little comfort. The phrase sent 1,000 suns and not a drop of trust. Lord Blackwood would not break bread within sight of a bracken. Even the Mallisters, old allies, argued over who should garrison the ford. Only the Tullys, battered and proud, seemed to believe that the king's peace could hold. On the fourth morning, as sun finally split the clouds, Robert summoned a council in the old Godswood, among blasted trees that had watched Aegon's fire. It was a mark of desperation. The hall was too loud, too crowded with spies. There, beneath the blackened boughs, he set out his will. "Too many kings, too many swords," he said, voice rasping. "If we do not move, we become a nest of targets for every crow in the realm. Tywin's gold will breed daggers faster than we can snuff them. The Tyrells watch for weakness, the Greyjoys for salt. Then..." He looked from Ned to Barristan, then to the silent men of Dorne and the Vale. "We march for King's Landing in 7 days. Stannis, you ride with me. Renly's claim will be answered by words or by war. Ned, you and the Tullys will hold the Riverlands. Lord Blackfish send riders to every town. Any Lannister man found raising banners is to be taken, tried, and sent to me in chains." Hoster Tully nodded, stiff with pain. Brynden only grunted. "The Brackens and Blackwoods will want blood, not law," he muttered. "Then let law hold them by the throat," Ned answered. "If they break it, we answer with northern justice." Robert continued, "Varys, return to the city. I want every pyromancer found and the tunnel sealed. The Queen and Jaime must not reach the capital first." Varys inclined his bald head, silk shoes making no sound in the wet grass. "As your grace commands. But know that wildfire was the Mad King's legacy, hidden in places even the Builders' Guilds forgot." Robert's mouth twisted. "Then search everywhere. If the city burns, I want my enemies to roast with it." "Well," Barristan Selmy's voice was like a drawn blade. "And the children, your grace?" Robert hesitated, eyes shadowed. "They go to River Run. Lord Tully will foster them until the realm is quiet." He did not look at Ned. "Let them grow where war cannot find them." No one argued. Even Tywin, present with a small retinue, nodded curtly. The game was changing, and each lord was already thinking of his next move. The day after council, ravens scattered in every direction. The army began to break camp, companies trickling out along the King's Road, banners slick with morning dew. Stannis' men went first, grim, silent, unyielding. Tyrell outriders circled at a distance, their bright plumes mocking the mud-caked northerners. Blackfish's riverlords guarded every ford and ferry, swords at the ready, eyes scanning for gold and crimson. Robert remained for 2 more days, giving the slowest banners time to depart. He met privately with Lord Tywin on the last evening in a cold solar overlooking the God's Eye. They sat, with only one candle between them, shadows as thick as secrets. "You have lost much," Robert said, "but you keep your banners close." Tywin watched the flame. "The Lannisters always pay their debts, your grace. I have debts to avenge." Robert did not blink. Vengeance breeds only corpses. If you draw sword against the realm, the west will burn. And if the realm draws sword against me, will it fare better? Tywin's voice was flat. Your mercy for my grandchildren is noted. It will not buy you peace. Robert leaned forward, pain tensing his face. Send no more riders. Accept Stannis as heir. Leave the rest be, and you may yet see Casterly Rock unbroken. Mercy. Tywin's smile was thin as a blade. Mercy, from a Baratheon? How the world changes. Robert rose. Mercy is a king's privilege. War is every man's doom. Choose. He left the room, leaving Tywin with the candles flicker. That night, as the camp slept, Ned walked the battlements above the east wall. Arya found him there, silent as a cat. She leaned on the stone, hair wild, eyes clear. Sansa says the city is full of snakes. Is that true? Ned stared at the dark horizon. There are snakes everywhere, little one. You must keep your eyes open and your heart guarded. Arya frowned. I want to learn the sword better. I want to help. He smiled, despite everything. You help just by being here. When the time comes, you'll know what to do. She did not smile back. If the queen comes for Myrcella, will you stop her? Ned put a hand on her shoulder. I will try. But you must promise, stay with Catelyn and Bran. Protect your brothers. That is the truest courage. Arya nodded, but her eyes lingered on the black road, as if already searching for ghosts. By the 6th day, the last banners had faded. The king's host numbered 5,000, less than half the force that once crossed the Trident. Stannis rode at Robert's right hand, his jaw clenched, his mind already on the city's walls. Lord Mallister and the Blackfish guarded the rear, Tully and Stark men interspersed. Behind them, the wagons bearing Cersei's children and Sansa Stark, guarded by a double cordon of Northmen, Riverlords and Stormlanders, moved quietly east toward Riverrun. Varys vanished into the mists before dawn, his silk shoes leaving no mark. Only Ned and Robert watched him go. He moves like a shadow, Robert said. But he hears everything. Ned nodded. He fears wildfire in the city. Robert's face darkened. If I find even a barrel, I will flay every pyromancer left. If Cersei finds it, gods help us all. They rode on, the king moving slowly, grimacing with each step. Ned watched him, saw the lines in his face, the anger and regret written there. For the first time, he wondered if Robert's spirit would outlast his wounds. News came swiftly as they approached the city. At Rosby, a rider met them with a white banner, Lord Renly's envoy, bringing the terms of his claim. Stannis read the parchment aloud to Robert and Ned, each word falling like a stone. To all lords of the realm, by right of blood and by the will of many, I, Renly Baratheon, claim the crown of the 7 kingdoms. My cause is just, my heart true, and my hand ready to defend peace. The seal was a stag, crowned in roses. Robert's face twisted. He is my brother, the king said softly, but he does not know the cost of crowns. Stannis burned the parchment on the campfire, face without expression. If he stands against us, Ned began. Robert finished. We do what must be done. We will not let the realm bleed again for a boy's pride. The host quickened its pace. Scouts galloped ahead, bringing word of Tyrell camps along the Roserad, but the Reachmen did not bar their path. The Tyrell lords were busy counting allies, watching the wind. At dusk, the black walls of King's Landing rose ahead, jagged against the sunset. The return was nothing like Robert's first conquest. No crowds filled the streets. The gates opened only after long parley. The gold cloaks stood stiff and watchful. On the ramparts, banners fluttered. Baratheon, Stark, Tyrell, and the Lion of Lannister, hastily furled to half-mast. Robert entered the city atop a black destrier, Stannis and Ned close behind. Sansa, under heavy guard, vanished into Maegor's holdfast. The city felt empty, the small folk peering from shuttered windows. Merchants silent, bells unsung. Within the Red Keep, the small council awaited in the throne room. Lord Petyr Baelish stood at the base of the Iron Throne, fingers steepled, eyes watchful. Grand Maester Picel bowed so low he almost toppled. Seriano Slint saluted, eyes flickering. Only Varys was absent, gone to tunnels, chasing wildfire and ghosts. Robert ascended the throne, wincing as he sat. Council, you are summoned to confirm the heir and the king's peace. Let all disputes be aired. Let all lords present swear anew. Baelish spoke first, voice velvet. The city holds your grace, but every alley breeds rumors. The people remember the Mad King's fire. They fear the Lannister gold more than they love the Baratheon stag. Dyrnan. Robert's voice was thunder. Let them see law restored. Stannis is my heir. All who challenge the councils shall answer to hammer and sword. He nodded to Ned, who unrolled a fresh parchment. By the order of the king, all lords of Westeros are summoned to pledge anew. Those who refuse, he paused, eyes hard, forfeit their lands to the crown. Pycelle, voice shaking, affirmed the law. Slint nodded, eager for royal favor. Only Baelish smiled. The city will do as it is told, so long as it is paid. Peace can be purchased, if the crown is willing. Done? Robert glared. Peace cannot be bought. It must be won. And kept. He fixed Slint with a hard look. Increase the guard. Any Lannister agent found plotting is to be brought before me, alive if possible. Baelish bowed. As you wish, your grace. That night, Ned walked the walls with Barristan Selmy. The Lord Commander of the King's Guard was as tired as Ned had ever seen him. They stopped above the city gate, moonlight shining on the cobbles below. Do you trust them? Ned asked. Barristan was silent a long time. The small council? No. The men who serve the throne? Perhaps. The city itself? Never. King's Landing devours kings. Ibaraman? Ned nodded. Robert is wounded. The lords circle like crows. Barristan's hand closed on his sword hilt. If the king falls, chaos will follow. We must stand ready. Ned looked east, where the city lights danced. I will stand. Winterfell stands with the crown. Barristan clapped his shoulder, old steel in his grip. Then perhaps the realm will outlast us all. But chaos, patient and clever, waited still. That same night, as storms gathered above Blackwater Bay, a lone ship slipped from the mud gate, unmarked and swift. In its hold, cloaked and hooded, Cersei Lannister nursed her wounds and her vengeance. Jaime sat beside her, his wrists raw from irons, his gaze unbroken. With them rode 24 loyal Lannister men, faces grim, eyes bright. As the ship turned south for Duskendale, the captain watched his passengers with unease, gold heavy in his pockets. In the cabin, Cersei whispered in Jaime's ear, "We will not be hunted like dogs. Father will rally the West. The Starks will choke on their honor." Jaime's smile was thin. "And what of the children?" Cersei's eyes burned. "I will see them again, or see the world end." The ship vanished into darkness, leaving only rumors and fear. King's Landing braced itself for new storms. In the Great Sept, prayers rose for peace. In taverns, men placed bets on how long the king would live. Spies met in shadow, reporting every whisper. Varys returned from the tunnels, his face as pale as bone. He found Ned in the Godswood, moonlight dappling the Weirwood's bloody face. "There are still barrels of wildfire, Lord Stark, too many. The pyromancers serve only gold and secrets." Ned's mouth tightened. "If Cersei reaches the city..." Varys shivered. "Let us hope she does not. Fire will not care who it burns." Ned bowed his head. "I will see them destroyed, even if I must do it myself." Varys smiled, mournful. "Pray that you do not. Fire is an old god. It remembers every slight." In the weeks that followed, the realm simmered. Renly held Bitterbridge, his court growing by the day. The Tyrells weighed alliances, their letters promising everything and nothing. In the west, Tywin gathered his banners, swords clashing in secret as gold moved east. In the north, Robb Stark held the neck. In the Riverlands, the Freys and Brackens feuded. Dorne sent no word, waiting, watching. On the Iron Islands, Balon Greyjoy's longships vanished. hunting prey in the mists. Sansa wrote daily to River Run, her letters filled with fear and longing. Arya trained with the Master-at-Arms, her heart hardening, her dreams wild. Bran and Rickon learned from maesters, each day a step toward a world without safety. Robert sat the throne, each day growing thinner, his eyes haunted by wounds that would not heal. He spoke often with Stannis, long into the night, their words private, grim. Ned watched over them both, his presence a silent promise. At last, the king summoned his friend. "The time has come, Ned. I feel death on my heels. If I fall, guard Stannis. Guard the realm. Do not let vengeance rule." Ned bowed his head. "You have my word." Winterfell keeps faith. Robert squeezed his hand, voice barely more than breath. "I trust no man as I trust you. Hold them, Ned. Hold them all." Madness. Beyond the walls, change crept in, slow as frost. The children at River Run grew quiet, their lives remade by exile and fear. Jaime and Cersei rode west, the roads thick with Lannister spies. Every inn a den of informers. Tywin sent word to the Rock, "We bide our time. We strike when the world is ready." Renly's court blossomed, filled with knights and banners. The Tyrells pressed for marriage, the Dornish sent silent emissaries. In the east, whispers of dragons reached Pentos. But in Westeros, the world turned on a king's pain and a queen's hate. And always, in the Red Keep, Ned Stark kept watch. He stood over Robert as fever came and went, listened to every rumor, weighed every message. When the bells tolled at dawn, he knew they rang for all of them. For the wounded king, the restless realm, and the future, as uncertain as the sea. Night after night, he dreamed of Winterfell, of snow and laughter, and the world before crowns. In the waking hours, he steeled himself for the storm to come. For in Westeros, peace was only ever the briefest season. A quiet before the wolves and the lions woke again. And in the deep places of the keep, where no torch shone, wildfire waited, dreaming of fire, waiting for a spark. By midsummer the city baked beneath a white sky, the stone streets of King's Landing shimmering, as if the gods themselves had placed the city in a forge. The Red Keep rose over the rooftops, brooding and unwelcoming, its high towers vigilant for banners. Gold, green, or gray. That might appear on the horizon. Robert Baratheon sat the Iron Throne in a chamber dark and cool despite the heat. Drapes drawn, a scent of lemon oil and smoke clinging to the air. He had lost weight, though the wine was seldom far from hand. He listened to petitions with a heavy-lidded stare, his right hand clenched always on the throne's armrest, knuckles white, as though squeezing the truth from cold iron. He did not trust the walls. In council, he trusted little more than his own reflection. Stannis sat beside him, gaunt as famine, and twice as relentless, always ready with a challenge or correction. Ned Stark, now hand in truth and name, moved through the city like a ghost, his household guards close, eyes wary for every shadow. News came thick as flies and twice as foul. Reports of Lannister gold flowing north, of Tyrell feasts swelling Renly's court, of Greyjoy sails glimpsed off the western coast. The realm was a tapestry stretched thin by old wounds and new ambitions, and each day Robert watched for the first thread to snap. It came, as it always did, with blood. In the bowels of the city, where the streets sloped down to flea bottom and the gutters never ran dry, a gold cloak stumbled upon a dead boy in the alley behind the Candlewing. His hair was golden, his jaw fine, one of the Lannister bastards, some said, fostered in secret and now gutted for spite or gold or both. Whispers wound up the hill in the night. The Lannisters strike at shadows. The king's justice means nothing here. The city will burn before winter comes. Ned rode out at dawn to see the body, his face set like hammered steel. With him went Arya, too quick for Sansa's protest, and Jon's wolf ghost padding silent as a specter behind. The gold cloaks scattered before Ned's gaze, and the small folk parted in silent awe. Ned knelt by the corpse, eyes grim, hands gentle. He knew the face. A squire who'd once served with Jaime's men. "This is not the last," he said quietly, to Arya alone. The wolves and lions will hunt each other until only bones remain. Arya did not flinch. If they come for Sansa or Bran, Ned placed a hand on her shoulder, firm. They will not. I will see to it. Yet even as he said it, he knew the city was slipping from their grasp. Every alley a hazard, every merchant's booth a potential nest of spies. That afternoon, Robert summoned the council. Sunlight cut slats across the council table. Pycelle's beard quivered as he recited reports. Littlefinger, all smiles, offered a list of debts, longer now than ever. Though he swore the crown could still buy peace with a wedding or two. Varys, soft and subtle, spoke of secret meetings in the cellars, of men with Lannister rings seen in among the sellers of fish. Stannis was the first to break the hush. We must move against the rock. Let Tywin taste fear for once. The Riverlords stand ready. If we strike swiftly, the west may falter. Robert turned to Ned. And the north? Ned's face was unreadable. Robb holds the neck. The banners wait on your word, but to march north risks leaving the city exposed. Expose it, and it will be burned, Varys intoned. Not only by wildfire, but by every hungry mouth south of the Blackwater. The people grow desperate. Every day there are more riots. Food, gold, the future. Robert grimaced, then downed a cup of wine. Let Tywin march first, then. If he raises his banners, I want ravens flying to every lord who's tasted Lannister gold. Find their price, then double it. Littlefinger smiled. A costly policy, your grace, but effective. Perhaps the Reach will sell their roses after all. Pycelle coughed. It may be better in the end to wed the claimants. Lady Margaery to Stannis. Sansa Stark to a Tyrell or a Baratheon. Peace by marriage is less costly than peace by siege. Stannis' mouth curled in distaste. Peace cannot be bought so easily, Maester. But it can be brokered, Littlefinger purred. If Lady Margaery weds your brother Renly, the Reach might back your house over Tywin. The Tyrells need only the promise of power, not the sight of the throne itself. Now, Robert's eyes flicked to Ned. Would you see Sansa married for peace? Ned's jaw tightened. I would see her safe, and the realm at peace. If it must be by marriage, so be it. But the boy must be worthy. Robert grunted. Then send riders to Highgarden. Let them make offers. And Varys, send word to River Run. I want the children guarded day and night. If Tywin or Cersei tries to snatch them, I'll burn the rock myself. Varys bowed, smile smooth as silk. It will be done, your grace. When the council ended, Ned lingered. He watched as Robert pressed both hands to his brow, rubbing as if to erase the headaches and doubts. Stannis had already gone, muttering orders to his captain of guards. Robert spoke without looking up. How long can we hold, Ned? Truly. Ned hesitated. As long as your strength lasts. If the city falls into chaos, no banners will hold for any king. Robert's laughter was bitter. Then the city must not fall, not while I breathe. Night fell thick and humid. Ned returned to the Tower of the Hand. Sansa waiting in the solar. A book on her lap, her eyes red from crying. Arya sat on the balcony rail, swinging her legs, hair a wild snarl. They looked up as Ned entered, ghost slipping past and curling at Arya's feet. I want to go home, Sansa said quietly, voice trembling. River Run, or Winterfell. Anywhere but here. Ned knelt, taking her hands. You will, my sweet, when the roads are safe. I promise. Sansa nodded, but her eyes found Arya, as if expecting her sister to protest or mock. Arya said nothing, just swung her feet and stared at the dark. The city was full of secrets she could not name. Later, after both daughters had gone to bed, Ned stood on the balcony, eyes searching the city below. Fires dotted the streets. The clangor of hammers never ceased. In the distance, the Blackwater glimmered. The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension, like a sword not yet drawn. He heard the step behind him and turned, hand drifting to the dagger at his belt. It was Stannis, gaunt and hollow-eyed. Robert grows weaker, Stannis said without greeting. I have seen the maesters at his side each night. Pycelle's leeches, His herbs, none of it works. 9. Ned nodded, silent. When the time comes, Ned, will you support my claim? You are the king's heir. The law is clear. Stannis' eyes were black, bottomless. The lords will not like it. They love Renly, love the easy path. If the rock rises, will the North stand with me? Ned's reply was soft but unflinching. If you are true to the realm, the North will answer. But I will not see my people bled for pride or vengeance. If war comes, it must come for justice alone. Stannis nodded, something like relief flickering. I will not forget. The next day dawned hot and bright, the city restless. Messengers from Highgarden arrived, banners trailing dust, their message wrapped in gold and scented with rose oil. Lord Mace Tyrell promised fealty to the crown, but only if Margaery was wed to a king. He would send 100 knights to King's Landing, their swords pledged in anticipation of a blessed union. Robert read the message and laughed. They would see that girl queen if they could, and burn every Baratheon but Renly. Ned watched his friend. Shall I answer them? Robert nodded. Say the king considers it. In truth, Margaery may suit Stannis better than Sansa. If the Tyrells bend, the Reach will follow. News from River Run was less sweet. Hoster Tully wrote that Lannister outriders had raided the outlying villages, burning fields, and taking prisoners. The children were safe, but the river was a border now, not a shield. Ned dictated his own reply. Double the guard, bar every bridge, and send word to Robb, let the neck close tight, but do not march unless summoned. Arya found him as he finished, a scowl on her face. Sansa won't talk to me. She says I only care about swords. And Ned tousled her hair. You care for more than swords, but the city is no place for girls, or for anyone with honor. When the time is right, I'll send you north. Arya looked up, fierce. I want Needle. Can I have it back? Ned hesitated, then nodded. So long as you keep it hidden, and you listen to your lessons. She grinned, teeth white and sharp. I promise. That evening, news broke like a thunderclap. Balon Greyjoy's longships had raided Fair Isle and taken 2 Lannister galleys, burning villages and seizing gold. The Ironborn were loose on the western coast. In council, the lords argued. Stannis demanded the fleet set sail at once. Littlefinger worried about trade. Varys warned of the city's vulnerability if the fleet left port. Robert made the decision. Let the Iron Fleet raid. We hold King's Landing until the west, and the Reach choose their side. I will not split my strength for salt and smoke. That night, Ned visited the Maester's tower. Pycelle hovered over his books, his hands trembling. The king grows worse, the old man whispered. If he falls, the lords will not wait for peace. They will take what they can. Now, Ned's jaw set. If Robert dies, Stannis is king. The law will hold. Pycelle's eyes darted. The law, yes, but the lords love Renly, and the Lannisters still have gold. Ned turned and left, anger hot in his chest. He stopped at the God's Wood, seeking the cool solace of the weirwood. He prayed, as he had not prayed in years, not for victory, but for the wisdom to choose right. In the distance, bells rang. A fire, or a riot, or another corpse found. Ned stood alone beneath the red leaves, the city's noise muffled by memory and hope. As the weeks passed, the storm only gathered. Tywin's banners moved north, gathering men. Renly sent envoys to every major house, offering pardons, gold, feasts. Stannis grew harder, more remote. Sansa wept nightly, Arya trained harder, and Robert faded, his voice softer, his temper shorter, the hammer in his hand growing too heavy to lift. One night, as thunder growled over the city, Robert summoned Ned to his chamber. The king was pale, his flesh drawn tight, sweat standing on his brow. Ned, he whispered, if I die, do not let the realm burn. Keep Stannis true. Watch my son, my real son, if I have one left. None. Ned bowed his head. You have my word. Robert squeezed his hand. You're the best man I ever knew. Don't let them forget me." Ned left, his heart leaden. He climbed the tower, found Arya asleep by Sansa's bed, needle clutched in her small fist. He kissed both their brows, then stared out over the city, searching the darkness for hope. Far to the west, Lannister banners snapped in the wind. In the reach, Renly raised a golden stag, and in the north, Robb waited, sword across his knees, eyes bright. Dorne sent only silence, the Ironborn only fire. And always, beneath the stones, wildfire waited, its secret hunger growing. Summer waned. On the last day of the king's life, Robert called Stannis and Ned to his side. He was weaker than ever, but his voice was clear. "I named Stannis my heir. All must swear." Stannis bowed his head, for once showing something close to grief. Ned swore, clasping the king's hand, and promised to hold the city for the rightful king. Robert died that night. The bells tolled at dawn, and the city awoke to mourning. Ned ordered the banners raised, the streets cleared, the walls watched. The lords gathered, some in sorrow, others in hope, all calculating their next move. Stannis was crowned in the sept, a crown of iron and pearl set on his black hair, his eyes bleak. The lords knelt, some grudging, others eager. Only the Lannister envoys withheld their fealty, leaving the court in silence. Ned kept the girls close, the guards closer. He sent word to Riverrun and Winterfell. The king is dead, the north must stand. In the days that followed, Stannis ruled with iron discipline. Riots were crushed, spies hunted, gold distributed to the poor. The realm held. For now. But far to the west, Tywin Lannister summoned his banners. Renly raised his own crown at Highgarden, cheered by thousands. On the sea, Balon Greyjoy prowled. And in the far east, 3 dragons hatched in shadow, unseen by Westerosi eyes. Arya whispered to Sansa that night, her voice fierce. "We will see Winterfell again. We'll be safe." Sansa nodded. But in her heart, she knew the world had changed forever. Ned stood in the Godswood, eyes fixed on the red leaves. Winter was coming, and with it, a reckoning as fierce as any sword. But for a moment at least, the realm was at peace, bought with sorrow, guarded by honor, and fragile as glass in a storm. And somewhere in the night, a single barrel of wildfire remained hidden, patient, waiting for the moment when hope faltered and old enemies returned to claim the ashes.